Okay, my name's Jill, and this is my daughter, Lindsey. I was raised basically in the Episcopal Church. And so I always knew it was there, but I never really felt committed, I guess.
I grew up in the church. I would go to church with my mom and my grandmother, and I kind of had grown up feeling like church was just something you were supposed to do. I didn't really understand why I was going to church, but I knew my grandmother was a very devout Christian.
And then after my mom died, I couldn't even consider going to church. There was no way. I was so angry. I lost so much when I lost her. She was my mom, my best friend, and my business partner. So it kind of sunk me.
I remember after she died, I was the same way. I was very angry. I couldn't understand how a God that's supposed to love us and care for us so much had taken her away from us. And so I basically refused to go to church. I refused to have anything to do with the church or God, or I would almost get angry if somebody would tell me they were praying for me. I was like, I don't want anything to do with any of this, because I essentially got to a point I didn't see a point in it. I figured that any God that would take my grandmother away from me was not somebody that I wanted to know. We actually first started coming to this church because we were invited by a couple of friends to the Christmas service last year. And it was a lot different than a Christmas service we were used to.
Yes, it was. I was convinced this was the weirdest place I'd ever been in my life.
I remember that was the first time I had been in a church in about 3 years since my grandmother had passed away, and because I didn't feel comfortable going to church without her. I remember hearing Pastor Andrew's message just really reached out and grabbed a hold of me, and I remember walking up to him after that service and giving him a big hug, and I was crying. I remember telling him that was the first time I'd been to church in 3 years and that I didn't want to stop coming back. And we joined a life group together, and then we'd never gone to a church that was involved in missions, so I'm actually going on a mission trip to Puerto Rico in a couple of weeks. That was something I've always wanted to do. Back in April, my father, who's a Lakewood police officer, was on duty and responding to a call of a man with a knife who was threatening people in traffic. He tried to stab my dad, and the guy was ultimately shot by my dad and a different officer.
But he didn't die.
He survived, and all the officers were unharmed. The officer that saved his life was on his first call by himself. He was 25 years old. He just finished training. And until later in the day, my dad didn't even know he was there. I got a chance to meet him, and I remember standing there in tears telling him, "You were my dad's guardian angel. I know that you were there because God put you there, and you were supposed to be there, and I'm sure you probably wish you hadn't been there on your first call by yourself, but I am so glad you were there." And that was my moment that I realized God is the reason my dad is still here, and he's the reason I have him. And I can't do anything to thank him enough for that, but I think giving my life to Jesus is a good start.
And I needed God's strength and somebody to lean on through all that, because she was falling apart, and he was on shaky ground too. And so I felt like I had to be strong for everybody else. So I needed somebody to lean on. And it just was automatically Jesus. We got into the book group that was doing A Confident Heart. It seemed like walking in the door, I changed.
There was just so much love and support in that room. I think the wonderful thing with that life group is that it helped us not just strengthen our relationship with Christ, but it helped us strengthen our relationship with mother and daughter.
That it did.
Which was really cool. I don't think we really necessarily expected that to happen.
No. I realized coming to this group and the life group, all of a sudden it dawned on me, I had forgiven this man. It was not a conscious, God tells me I have to, so, okay. It just was. I still immensely cannot forgive his action, but not the person is forgiven. I don't know that either one of us would have come out of it stronger and better and more loving people, really, had we not been here.
We baptize you in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.